Okay, so we are starting recording, so great. I'm going to make an introduction about what is supervision, and then we're going to do a practice. We're going to do a demo where I'm going to ask some volunteers to work with me, and the rest are going to be observers, but not passive observers. I will give you a job. When you are observing, you will need to take some notes, because after the session, we will go to small groups, and you will share with your colleagues your learnings. Okay, so basically, I'm going to talk briefly for 5 minutes now. We are going to do the demo, then we're going to go to small groups, and then we're going to come back together to discuss the learnings. So that's the agenda for the session. So when I was in the global board of directors, I was there for 6 years. It was like almost a part-time job as a volunteer, from 2010 to 2016. And in these 6 years, we were wondering about the future of coaching. What's in the future for coaching? In 2013, the first program, and in the UK and in Europe, they're advanced compared to the Americas and the rest of the world. In the UK, they have been a couple of steps ahead of us in developing the coaching as a profession, supervision. And they had already many books on the topic, supervision certifications, and in the Americas, we still didn't know what was coaching supervision. And still, many people don't know what is it. We're working on that. And so I was curious, and they were, Coaching Supervision Academy came to North America to do the first session. So people mainly from the United States and Canada participated. So that was the first cohort in 2013. And I was there as part of the Global Board of Directors to learn what was coaching supervision and what would be ICF's position. Why? The MCC, the European Mentor and Coaching Council, who offers a certification for supervisors and for supervision programs, make it mandatory for all coaches to get supervision to renew their credentials. So it's part of the ethical standards. It's considered ethical guidelines for all coaches to have a space to work and reflect on their work. So ICF was not sure what to do about that. So that's the reason why we, Janet Harvey, who I heard is also going to be doing some work with you, we together went through this training to get certified as supervisors. And I fell in love with supervision. And I thought every coach in the world should work with a supervisor. And I got in trouble, because I was the global president. And when you have a position, you cannot say what you think, like representing the organization. So a lot of people start calling and complaining, how come I have said that, you need to be that supervision, that all coaches should have a supervisor? Well, making a long story short, I still think that. I still think that every coach should be working with a supervisor. Why? Because we are working with people and we have blind spots. It doesn't matter if you're an ACC, PCC, or MCC. It doesn't matter how much experience we have. There are going to be always blind spots, things we're not going to see. There are going to be always some kind of emotional reaction to what's happening to us working with our clients. And supervision is that space. It's a space where, and I like to separate the word supervision. We separate and we reflect on our work. So supervision is not about telling people what to do. And unfortunately, it's a word that when we hear supervision, we hear management, guidance, telling people what to do. And that's not the meaning here. The meaning is a supervision, a space to dissociate, separate, look at your work and wonder, what can I do to be more effective? And the question is, don't you think that we all need to look at that? Don't you think that we as coaches need to be all the time looking at what we need to do to go to the next level? So clients may be very happy, but that doesn't mean necessarily that we're doing our best job all the time. So that's the idea with supervision. It's a reflective space where we have a collaborative dialogue in which we explore our work so we can be even more effective. Now, finally, ICF position was that coaching supervision would not be mandatory, but one of the ways for people to get units of education to renovate their credentials. So basically, if you want to get supervision, you can get up to 10 hours of supervision to renew your credentials. Now, in the same time, team coaching, I don't know how many of you are familiar, but ICF is going to be coming up with a new accreditation as team coach. Anybody have heard about it? Anybody knew about the new team coaching accreditation? It's a brand new accreditation like ACC, PCC, MCC is going to be the team coaching accreditation. It's going to come up at the end of the year. So they started with a pilot. So they started getting people who are involved in ICF in the team coaching community of practice, and other people who were involved doing some team coaching. So we went through the pilot, and we are still waiting our results for our accreditation. So they are going to come up at the end of the year. And interestingly, to get your accreditation as a team coach, you need supervision. Supervision is mandatory. So even though supervision for now is not, I don't know if one day will be mandatory for renewing credentials, it is mandatory to apply for a team coach credential. Why? Because it's considered that the work of the team coach is very complex. And supervision is that space where we can explore our work to be sure we're doing our best possible work. Now, we are not going to talk today about team coaching supervision. We're going to talk about group coaching supervision that is different. Jimmy, where are you going to like that?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead. We can open for questions.
So with, I'm curious because with team coaching, is that Katerina Kanalidou is one of the leads on creating that whole space, isn't she?
There are many people. I don't know everybody who is involved in that community.
Because I think she was a big leader in that. We saw her last year. And we had her in the MasterClass earlier this year, and she was talking about the team coaching and how it works, getting certified in that area as well, and how it's growing and they're creating it. So anyway, we were lucky we got her as well. So she's a part of that lead. So that's great.
Yes, there are many people working on this.
Yeah.
And there is also an exam like you do for your accreditation, and there is a brand new exam coming up in August. And there is also a similar exam for the team coach where you have around 200 cases, and then you have 4 options. You have to choose the worst and the best and the worst option. So you grow up in America and you're used to multiple choice. It's easy, but if you have never worked with multiple choice in your life, it's much more difficult because it's not only about knowing the answer, but choosing the right answer, what is another skill. Well, moving on. Today, the invitation is to have an experience in group coaching supervision. What is the difference between individual and group coaching supervision? In individual supervision, you meet one-on-one with a supervisor and you discuss what is a case, a situation with a client, or an issue that you want to explore in that session. And in group coaching supervision, instead of doing it one-on-one, you do it in a group format. So usually groups have between 4 and 7 participants. And you decide at the beginning how you're going to split the time, how many people are going to present. And you may have in 1 hour and a half or 2 hours, you may have 3 or 4 people presenting a case, and everybody engage in discussing the case or the situation. So this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to ask 5 volunteers to work with me in the group, and I'm going to ask 1 to bring a case, a situation with a client that you would like to explore. And we will explore the client together. So everybody will get a sense of how this works. So a few years ago in 2017, when I went to the chapter, I also talked about supervision, and I think I did a demonstration one-on-one, if I am not wrong. I did a one-on-one demonstration of the individual supervision. So today we're doing to do a group supervision. And why when I was asked what to present on, I am pretty passionate about supervision. Because not only because I think that is a way for us to keep growing and learning, but I do believe that helps the whole profession. So by having coaches getting supervision, not only benefit the coach, the client, also as a result of the coach learning and being more effective, but also I believe that the whole professional practice of coaching, because that brings coaching to the next level. So I do believe that is one of the ways that we all collaborate and we all contribute to make this professional practice better and more effective. So I have this in my agenda. So that's the reason why I'm committed to this. Any questions before we get to do some work? No questions yet?
No questions. I guess everybody understands everything.
I have a question, Damian. Are we, as we observe, if we're observers, are there any guidelines that we're being asked to follow, or anything that we should pay attention to?
Yes, definitely. I want to share some guidelines. And basically, when we work in supervision, there are different models. I work, and the people supervise in different ways. It's not only one way. The idea is that in the new competency model with 8 competencies for ICF, in competency number 2 that is new, is the coaching mindset, developing a coaching mindset. And one of the points is having a reflective practice. So what I want to bring also here to conversation is not only that it's not mandatory, but not only that you can get CCUs, but there is a space in ICF coaching model and the way we think about coaching, that there is a space for reflective practice. This is what we're going to be doing today. Now, we can do it in different ways. The way that I like to work is systemically, looking at systems. And when we look at systems, we look at the stakeholders and their relationships. So what I enjoy doing is working with a systemic perspective, looking at the system coach client, but also to the system coach supervisor. And looking not only who is the client, what happened in the coaching sessions, and what is the relationship this coach and the client, but also in the here and now, what's happening to the coach working with the client. That will be the who of the coach, who is the coach being working with the client, what's happening to the coach emotionally. Then what's happening here and now between us as a supervisor and a coach, and what's happening to the supervisor, and bringing that to conversation using self as instrument. So the concept of distinction, self as instrument, I think it's important in coaching and it's important in supervision too. It's about bringing ourselves for the benefits of our clients. So in this model, there are 7 I's. 1 I is the client, and number 2 is what the coach have been doing with the client or the interventions. And number 3 is the relationship between the coach and the client. That's for the system coach client. And then for the system coach supervisor is what's happening to the coach, what's happening to the supervisor, and the relationship between them. And I number 7 is the context, what is around everything. So for example, now, I think most of us are in the United States, and there are a lot of things going on in the country, aren't they? You know, and this is in our background. And I don't know you, but sometimes I listen to the news and I get so upset about what's happening, and that is influencing us and influence us as coaches, supervisors, or our clients when they show up to coaching also. And this is one of the questions that I like to ask my clients when we start coaching. How are you today? How is what's happening in the world affecting you from a systemic perspective? And the agenda, of course, is from the client, but I think it's important to put that agenda in the context of what's happening in the world and how it is affecting us, because it's affecting all of us in different ways. But this is a great place, supervision, to explore how as supervisors, for example, all of the issue of burnout, you know, for the last 2 years, it has not been easy. Over the last 2 years, we all deal with a lot of what's emotional roller coaster. And many times, it was very hard for coaches to deal with the emotionality that the clients were bringing to coaching, not only because of having loved ones affected by being sick or even dying, but also the effect at work. So it has been a roller coaster, and I do believe that supervision is a place for us to explore what's happening to us as coaches, managing and navigating all of these challenges. This is what we're going to do. We're going to use only 30 minutes, so that gives us time to go to work in small groups. So I need 5 volunteers to work with me, and it's more interactive, I promise. It's more fun to participate than to observe. So I need 5 people who want to stay here working with me, and then I'm going to ask 1 to bring a case to discuss together and explore together. And the rest, I'm going to give you some guidance about what to do. So if you want to just raise your hand, if you are not with your camera on and you want to join us, and turn on your camera so you can participate. Okay.
Awesome. We've got Val and Alex and Shakti so far. Can't we get 2 more volunteers?
Ale, thank you.
Sure, guess I'll volunteer.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Eric.
Sure.
Good. And it's a good balance, men and women. That's great. Sometimes we want that. Sometimes it's not possible. But
Do I need to raise my hand? There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Make it official.
okay, great. Okay, so
Misha's not here.
everybody else, let's turn off the cameras. So we have 4.
We have, 4.
And anybody else would
Eric,
like to?
Shakti.
Anybody
Misha's
else
got
would
her
like to?
hand up. Okay.
You
So
have
we've
5.
got
Okay,
Val,
great.
Eric, Misha,
Great.
Shakti, and Alex.
Great. Okay, great. Okay, this is a beautiful group. So for the observers, what you want you to observe? You wanted to observe me, okay? Not because of being egotistical, but that is not work. So people who are here, don't worry about being observed, because this is not for you to observe them, it's for you to observe me. What do I do as a supervisor? So I want you to take some notes. What are the behaviors? What do you observe that I am doing as a supervisor? This is what I want you to focus on. What question do I ask? And by the way, later, this is an important one, because as you heard before, I train supervisors, and then we have guests, experienced supervisors who do demonstrations like I'm going to do now. And then I said, this is not to give feedback to the supervisor, okay? So I'm not asking you to give me feedback. I'm not asking you what you like or what you didn't like about what I'm going to be doing. This is not about that. It's about learning. It's about learning, and it's about what did you learn. So you learn from what you observe, what you think caught your attention, what was different. So what did you learn from this experience? That's the question I wanted you to answer. What did you learn by watching me supervising about group supervision? That's the question that I want to invite everybody to answer. Okay. Any question from the people who are here before we start? Any question from you about what we're going to be doing?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted there.
Okay, so let's start by contracting. Okay, that's the way that good work always start with contracting. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Coaching, supervision, mentoring, training, whatever you do, contracting. For me, this is my personal, and by the way, I always say this is my perspective, and there are others, I respect other perspectives and other positions. My perspective is that the contracting is the foundation of the work we do. And I am also an ICF assessor. I assess people applying for MCC credential, and this is one of my bias. Like I believe that if an MCC level coach is not effective at contracting and agreeing the work that is going to be done, it's going to be very difficult that the session will be very effective. So this is one of my bias. So in contracting, we want to clarify what is supervision. I already did that. And we want to come up very fast with some ground rules. Now, when you come up with groups in ground rules, you can spend 30 minutes with the ground rules. So let me share some that I think are going to be helpful, and then you add whatever you need to make this work for you. Is that okay? To make it faster. Confidentiality. This is going to be recorded, but whatever you share here, I don't know, this is going to be shared with people who are not here today, or it's for the people who are here?
It would be shared with people who are here. We can
who have registered.
Yeah, we can keep it that way. Yep.
Okay, great. So in that way, and by the end of the session, if you don't feel comfortable, whoever is presenting, we can edit that piece and take that piece. So it's all possible. So don't worry about. So basically confidential, and as at the end of the session, if the person presenting the case don't feel comfortable, we will edit. Secondly, is respect for each other, being supportive, being loving. The word love, sometimes people don't want to use it. I like to use it because I do believe that the work that we do as coaching is a love, it's a work of love. And in terms of times, we need just to be, when we participate, we need to be aware that we have only 30 minutes, so just go to the point. Be willing to be vulnerable to the extent it's tricky, being vulnerable and open when you're being observed, but to the extent that you can do that, being present, and that will be my requirements. Do you need anything else? Eric, Alec, do you need anything else? No? Do you feel comfortable with that?
So far, so good.
Okay. So
Consider it contracted.
What do you say?
I said, consider it contracted.
Okay, wonderful. Great. So when you start, you can do this in many ways. I like processes. So I am process oriented. So like in my activities, as I like to have a contract, clarity what we are doing, I like to explain my client what we're going to be doing. So basically, as I shared before, the agenda for the session, the agenda for our 30 minutes together has 3 steps: a check-in, an exploration, and a checkout. And in the check-in, I'm going to ask everyone, how are you doing? How are you getting here? Anything you're present to? And you have 1 minute or less. Then I'm going to ask for a volunteer who would like to bring a case to explore together. And then at the end, I'm going to do a checkout and I'm going to ask you, what did you learn today? Because the idea is that you all are going to be learning something from what happened. And as a supervisor, I trust, like in coaching, that there is going to happen something that is going to be valuable for you, that your time here is a good investment of your time. I don't know what is that. It's going to be something different for everyone, but there is going to be some learning. Is everybody okay with this? See, so we have these 3 moments. So let's start with the check-in. So in 1 minute, you want to share briefly, what are you present to? Anything you want to say about what you're present to? And if you think that you have a case that you would like to explore. Who wants to start?
I'm thinking. So I could jump in. So I have this group and we're working on their vision, mission statement. And actually we did that part. And now we're going into strategic planning. It is one of my jams. And I think the possible challenge that the group could be facing is that the reason why they called on us is because they've lost their membership, their participants since the pandemic, and they're trying to pivot.
And you're like a team coach for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
well, I could, it's possibly group coaching at this point because they've dwindled down so much. And so now the strategic plan is supposed to hopefully inspire the activities, the involvement that they used to have once upon a time. And so the numbers of the membership group is 30 plus. However, those that come to the meetings is a very small group. So they're willing to run with whatever the strategic goals would be.
So let me stop here, because let's hear from everybody else to see how many people have cases, and then we can choose together which case to present.
Okay.
But I think with the information that you gave us, give us an idea to be able to choose. So then later we can go and explore the case.
Got it.
If I ask you about what are you present right now? What are you present to right now? Like the check-in, I want everybody to share that. What are you present right now? What's going on for you? When I say what are you present means what is in your mind, in your body, in your emotions, briefly, in 1 minute.
Okay, I can go first.
Okay.
Right now, I'm a little bit tired because I had a very full day with a lot of clients. That's awesome. And I'm curious. I wanted to be here and I'm open to what is coming.
Okay, great. Do you have any case that you want to explore today?
Not really. Too tired to think about it.
Okay.
To tell you the truth.
Okay, thank you for being honest. Okay, who wanna go next?
I can go next.
Ale, go ahead.
So I'm a bit anxious, and this is because I also had a long day, but having the opportunity to think and to reflect about coaching is actually kind of healing and soothing in a sense. So that's the kind of emotion I bring to this conversation. It's my moment. It's the me time, learning, reflecting on the practice I love. I especially in agreement with you that coaching is a labor of love more than anything. So thank you for guiding us today.
Ale, do you have a case today that you want to explore?
No, same situation. Too tired to think about one.
Everybody gets here. Okay, I understand. We all have. I am a little bit earlier than you because I am in Los Angeles, so it's 3 hours earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can go next. What I am coming in here with today is definitely, unfortunately, also some exhaustion. I have a little bit of frustration about a non-coaching related matter that is becoming a bit overpowering. And I'm also very eager to learn and to experience what is going to happen here today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thanks everyone for sharing. I'm approaching, thank you, Damian. Approaching from a curious mind space today. Like everyone on here, it has been a long day, so I'm feeling not scattered. I'm feeling very present and very curious, but I do want to acknowledge that it has been a very mental day, where seemingly every call that I've gotten on has just really pulled me into it and really just taken a lot out of me, which, although I don't have a topic to discuss today, does beg the question, why has my coaching become so hard? Because if we're just supposed to be watching the process, then why am I exhausted? And it makes me wonder if I'm doing too much of the work. So we don't need to explore that, but that's where I'm coming from, and happy to be here.
Well, that's a great question for supervision.
I bet it is.
Yeah, and I'm sure that here other people may benefit from that exploration too. My intuition tells me. So basically what we do is in groups like here, is like we ask everybody to share and see if anybody have a case, and then based on how many people have cases, you split the time that you have together in them. So in this case, we have only for one case. So we need to choose one between, yes.
Does the case have to be a group-related coaching, or can it just be an individual coaching?
No, individual, can be individual, group, or team. So I have to distinguish. Individual coaching is when you, as a coach, you work with one person. Group coaching is when you work with a few people, but everyone has different goals.
Mm-hmm.
And team coaching is when the team is measured by the result that they have together.
Okay.
So that's the difference between group coaching and team coaching.
Okay. I probably could have an individual case.
Okay.
If we needed consideration.
So do you want to tell us briefly, like the highlights? What would that be?
It's coaching of a client that is that has a huge laundry list of personal issues that are all happening simultaneously, becoming very overwhelming. A lot of them very therapy related topics that the client is dealing with the therapist on. And seems to be somewhat difficult to separate everything that's coming from there from coaching, even though the client has a very clear perspective of what they want to achieve in coaching.
Okay, this is another great case for supervision. Can everybody see? These are the kind of conversations. Now, one thing, you don't only bring challenges, you also bring your work that is working well. So say, okay, I'm working with this client, it's going really well. I want to discuss that in supervision because I want to know what I'm doing that is so good, that is working so effectively. So it's not looking only what is not working or what is challenging, but also validating, leveraging strength. So I want to emphasize that so we don't forget that piece. Okay, that sounds like a really interesting case. And so do you want to, you didn't share anything about your present. What are you present to? You share about the case, but not about being present. Do you want to share what are you present to? When you were bringing your case about the team coaching?
Oh, sorry about that, Damian. I'm present to just being a good sport, a good team sport right now. That's why I volunteered.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. That's great. So, okay, basically what I'm going to do now is what I do with my groups when I supervise is asking, okay, we have 3 issues. We have a case of a team coaching. We have a client, a specific issue related to some complexity that needs to be clarified. And then Eric is bringing a topic instead of a case that is feeling exhaustive and how to deal with that. If there is something that he may not be seeing, that he may work with that. So we have to choose between the 3. Let's vote. What do you think? You can vote for yours or others, doesn't matter. So which one have more interest in the group today?
I'm voting for Shakti because she started off saying how it's overwhelming. That word stood out to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd go with Eric's topic.
Okay, the topic of Eric being
exhausted. With Eric. Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to find the energy. Sorry, Shakti. It's like, I don't know if I have the energy to discuss that case there. So I want to get more energy. I'm just joking.
Well, Shakti's is very interesting to me, and I think that would be a good one to explore, but I'm willing to go down whatever path the group thinks.
So I think that sometimes when that happens, is like, Shakti, you didn't answer yet, but I think that maybe for the learning of everybody, it would be good to see a case because this is what's different. Because when you choose a topic, sometimes it may sound similar, the topic that group coaching, because you're talking about a topic. But what makes supervision different is that you work with cases. So you also work with topics, but sometimes when you listen a session, it sounds similar, group coaching to group supervision, if this is a topic versus a case. So let's work with a case, if that's okay with everybody. And then I come back to the chapter and we do some work on recharging batteries and looking at our work. What do you think?
That's okay. That's okay.
I am willing to come back to keep working on that.
We're game. Thanks, Damian.
So Shakti, let's work. Tell us a little bit about your client. So we're going to go I'm going to follow the model that I shared with everybody before. We're going to go through the 7I, and everybody here is going to have a role. So your role would be to ask questions to Shakti. So pay attention to what she shared, and I'm going to give you guidance about how to ask these questions. Okay, so basically, first I'm going to follow the 7I model with the 7 I's, and then I'm going to get engaged and participate in this conversation in different ways, asking questions or coming out with other guidelines that I will give you. So Shakti, tell us briefly about the client. In 2 minutes, everything that we need to know about the client in 2 minutes.
Oh, geez. Okay, so she's it's a woman. She's has her own business, has had a lot of success, is very hardworking, has a family. There's issues going on in the family. And that's part of sort of what's coming up. So there's issues with the family. There's a potential new family on the horizon, a sort of a new life that she's hoping to step into. Issues there as well. Unfortunately, she finds herself in a bind where she feels that is a path that she has to walk for certain reasons that she has specified. However, the issues that are in that new path in her future are very, very, very powerful and are really overwhelming almost everything that she comes in with. It is to how I experience it, a constant presence for her, the issue that she's having that is related to a new life that she's walking into. Yet she is convinced that this is the life she has to walk into. And so there's a struggle about how to deal with that. This is something she's dealing with her therapist on. And her coaching topic is basically to manage the overwhelmed feeling and to be able to focus on the goals that she's set for herself, both in the issues she's still dealing with in her current relationship and life, and also the future ones.
And what will be your question? Like, this is in supervision, we don't ask what would you like to accomplish in the supervision session today. That's a coaching question. The supervision question is, what question do you have? What would you like to explore today regarding to your client?
What would be my question?
Mm-hmm. What question do you have about working with this client?
About working with this client. I am having, even though the client is very clear about the fact that what coaching is and what therapy is and the difference between the two and all this stuff, that's how they walked into the coaching relationship. And we've emphasized it several times afterwards. I am curious whether coaching is actually beneficial for this client. I have asked the client whether the coaching meetings have been beneficial for her, and she has responded positively to that. Yet I am still questioning whether it is, and whether it's actually for me to answer.
Is anything in particular that make you think that? What do you think is the roots of this question?
The constant divergence of every question or topic that comes up that we want to work on, that she brings to the table for each meeting, everything really constantly goes back to the issue that is most prominent in her head and in her life and in her reality right now, that has to do with her future, which is not a coaching topic. Because she has a specific decision she has made about this topic. She's steadfast on that decision. There is no question whether that's the path she has to take. She doesn't want to discuss that. Yet it is a constant and almost to me a block. I'm experiencing it as a block.
We're going to do a round of questions for clarification about this case. What questions do you have that will help you to understand the case better? So I want everybody to think about the question that you may have, and Shakti, you write down the question, but you don't need to answer them.
Okay.
So the person who brings the case don't need to answer all of the questions. You just choose which one do you want to answer, so you don't feel pressure that you have to do that. So who would like to start? What question come up for you? And Shakti, you want you to write that down and then choose which one do you want to answer. But first, write them down. Ale?
Yes, I can start. My question is, given the decision is taken, how can you as a coach help her achieve the decision she's taking?
Okay.
What are your bias there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What are your bias in this situation?
Thank you.
I guess I'll ask, how would you know coaching is beneficial for this client?
And mine would be, have you explored with the client, why is she really there with you?
And my question is about collaborating with a therapist or a mental health person, if that's something that you have explored or discussed, or if there is any communication or relationship or interdisciplinary work. So many times the first question is more about understanding what's going on before we go to hypothesis of what may be going on. So this is usually the process. But Shakti, you don't need to answer all of the questions. Which one do you would like to spend a few minutes discussing here?
All of these have come up for me, honestly, in my time with the client. And so I'm having a little bit of a hard, because they're all important questions.
You have to choose one to explore. Which one do you want to explore?
Let's choose, I'll choose, what are my biases
Great.
in the situation?
Great.
So now I answer that question?
Yeah, you can start.
My bias could be that that the client's emotional state that is very evident during the meetings can actually hold her back from making any decisions on whatever the topic is that comes up in an objective way. Not objective is not the right word. In a way that is focused on her real goal that she wants to achieve. That's what I meant by it. That's what objective meant to me as I was using that word. That's one bias that I can think of. Another one is possibly maybe not 100% trusting my client to, when they tell me that they are 100% that they are committed to the decision that's causing them so much grief, and that they're committed to figuring out other things that they want to improve, so that that kind of, you know, can be maybe masked, or I'm not fully believing that that's really what they can that's really true. I'm not fully believing that that's true. Yeah, I guess that there's a little bit of what I'm sensing about what's really going on with the client and what words are coming out of their mouth. The connection is lost for me. And it's impacting maybe the way that the impact that I think my coaching may be having, because I feel like there's a truth, not towards me, but a truth for the client, for themselves, that is not really being spoken. Those are some big things for me. Those three things I would say are the things that come up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and doing that work. So I'm going to ask one more time for the participants of the group to participate to one last round. And in this round, I want to ask you, when you hear Shakti talking about these three biases she had, what was your experience? And we go to what we talk about I number 6, that is the experience of the supervisor, what's happening to you when you hear that. So when you hear Shakti sharing her biases, what was in your mind, in your heart, in your body, in your emotion? What reaction do you have? And this is not if to have a dialogue with her, it's just to share what was happening to you. Briefly, just what was your experience? And I want to check you just to listen. This is not a dialogue or a conversation. It's just to collect reactions that people have about that. That may be helpful for you. Ale?
Yeah, my energy went down a bit, and I start feeling judgmental. Like I was judging if she was judging the client, like trying to be too rational here in my mind instead of flowing. I basically, in summary, I saw a cut in the flow of energy and ideas.
Well, in supervision, we will call that is parallel process. And say, okay, well, you may feel sometimes guilty because you're having a judgment. You wonder maybe that's happening exactly to Shakti with her client. You know, sometimes what we happen is it's called parallel processes when we repeat in the here and now in supervision, something that happened to somebody that may or may not be something similar to what's happening to the person bringing the case. So you're sharing that there is a possibility, and Shakti for you to consider too, that maybe there is a part of you that also may be judgmental towards your client. And then it will be interesting to find out if your client is being judgmental to other parts in her system of what's going on. You know, and part of that judgment, if it is not in the way that Ali was bringing it, is to ourselves, our judging ourselves. Not only judging others, but judging ourselves. Like Ali also judged himself in a way that he was feeling that was not right what he was doing. So that's a possibility in group that somebody verbalizes and articulates something that other people. But that's the reason why this is not a dialogue. So you listen to and see how you resonate later with everybody's comments. Who wanna go next?
Yeah, I was wondering myself, did she notice any of these biases showing up before with her client in sessions? And also curious of how she will probably show up differently going forward.
Okay, thank you.
I felt a large degree of empathy for Shakti. I mean, I can definitely identify with that, and I think it's commendable, Shakti, your courage for bringing this. I think it's an interesting thing or a fantastic thing to bring up. I found myself questioning my own biases and found myself thinking just how profound this question is and how it does relate to the way that we, view our clients. When you talked about, their real goal and sort of that you suspect that they aren't 100% committed. Yeah, it was powerful for me in a sense of looking at my own work.
That's the idea, Eric. That's exactly the idea, is that we look at our own work by listening to other people's sessions, because we, one way or another, we relate to other colleagues in their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for bringing this up. What?
It was like I noticed the power of silence, and it came to me. And first was this awkwardness because you were silent, and I felt uncomfortable, as if I were her, I would be uncomfortable. And then it was like she went deeper and deeper, and things were coming. So the discomfort went away, and I was like, oh, I love that. So it how I felt.
Something for me, a couple of things happened. One was I wanted to give you space. And did you see that I was silence? That I give you a lot of space? So I was wondering about you giving space to your clients. And I wondered if you are giving, I don't know, because we didn't get the chance to hear you. So in terms of you giving space to your client, I was wondering if you're giving her too much space, like I was giving to you, and then you're wondering, oh, am I being effective because I'm giving too much space, and this is she's speaking, this is what she needs to do. And by doing that, she may be getting a lot of value, that the value that you were not sure you were getting. I don't know, it's a hypothesis, that's a possibility. And then you tell me, Damian, you're completely wrong. That's okay too, because I don't know, but I would think it's a possibility. The second thing, what was happening to me, and this is the way that I like to work, is to share what is my experience. And when I was hearing you, my experience was of a little bit of fear. I was afraid. I was afraid that your client was taking the wrong decisions or going in the wrong direction or doing something. So I was wondering if that fear that I have is something that you also may experience. A little bit of fear that your client may be choosing and maybe doing something because she's not consistent between what she's saying and what she's doing and what she's experiences. Maybe this lack of connection may take her to a place that not be the best for your client, and that may produce a little bit of fear, consciously or unconsciously. Like I was feeling that a little bit of fear for your client to see if she was going in the right direction. I was wondering if by any chance you were experimenting that at all. And as you can see, these are all hypotheses and possibilities. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a lot here from everybody. So where are you now?
I almost have a sense of relief, honestly, to have actually to have a chance to say this and share this with you all. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And it's funny how the feedback, it's all things that have crossed my mind and that I've sat with and kind of analyzed and kind of done that post-meeting assessment of myself, and I don't record my sessions, so it's more from my recollection and how I experienced the meeting. And all of these things are things that have come up for me. And what comes to mind as I think about that is that a lot of these experiences, when I try to answer these questions, one can kind of feed the other, and everything is connected, right? My bias, the judgment is a big thing for me, ensuring that I don't judge, because it's such a tricky thing that comes up in such a sneaky way all the time, right? So judgment is a tricky one, self-judgment included. And so there's that, and then there's judgment of the client, and also just questioning. My focus, my goal as a coach is to try to help people support people to achieve their goal, right? To just say it simplest. If I know my client shares with me that the goal, that something they are doing is 100% the opposite of what they really want in their heart, and they can't stop crying about it for an hour, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, but if she tells me this is her decision and she stands by it, who am I to judge that and to say, well, because you're crying about it for an hour, now to me, that can't be. So it's, am I then judging, or is it my responsibility to think of that as, that doesn't jive? Intuitively, that doesn't jive for me. But who? And I've said that to her in a way, right? My intuit, what comes to me as I'm experiencing you is, this is not matching. And then I just get the same response, which is, this is the decision I am making. And I'm not trying to talk her out of her decision, so I don't argue with it, but it's a point of, it just makes me wonder about the validity of continuing with the coaching. And that has been my biggest question. Not my coaching in general, but me coaching her specifically.
May I ask something to Shakti that is burning here? I understand that you don't want to deny, so to say, but have you challenged the decision for her own benefit of assessing? Because for me, and sorry if I'm being a bit judgmental here, I'm trying not to, but for me, the question is, okay, is the decision because she from a rational perspective knows that she needs to do? How much does she how much does she want? She wants to take this decision, or she's take this decision because it's right for, regardless of the context, versus the willing to take this decision.
So what is the question? Sorry,
the question is, does she really want to take this decision, or does she need to take this decision? That, for me, that's a crucial difference. I would, if I was, and I don't know much, of course, about the rest, but I would try to coach in trying to make the client understand the difference, and whatever the answer is, it's fine. But at least give the client the opportunity to have these two questions in hand and say, okay, from a rational perspective, I say yes, that's a decision. From my heart perspective, it's not what I want to do, I need to do. So
yes.
Just comparing the rational with emotional. Now we need to start wrapping up. Sorry for interrupting, but unfortunately we are running out of time. And I want to bring a couple of things for everybody to think. That one is what Ali is talking about, is that is anything that the client is still not seeing? This is what we want to ask ourselves. And that's a question for you to think, Shakti. Is anything the client is not seeing? It's a blind spot. around the decision she's making, because it sounds like she make a decision, and it sounds when we hear you, Shakti, that this is not what she really wants or what's really in her heart. Now, we may challenge our clients, and they still may have that as a blind spot, and we may try to show it in many different ways, and it's not working out. I do believe in our practice as coaches, there is not a lot of research and not a lot of conversation about finishing coaching processes. I don't think, Shakti, that there is a lot. If you go to conferences, I have not heard many presentations on finishing coaching and when is the right time to finish and when is the right time to stop. I think that we all have the bias, talking about bias, we all have the bias that we all need to be great to all of our clients. We cannot finish coaching before the contract. We need, so there is not a lot about when is the right time to stop. And I think that what you're bringing, Shakti, which is another issue to discuss too, that for you to think is, maybe your intuition is telling you, okay, this is not going anywhere. She's being here, she believes that is getting value from this. I assess, you say, who is the one to assess? Maybe you may say, okay, my client assesses getting value, so great, let's keep working. Or you may say, I don't think that this client is really ready. She's with a therapist, whatever she needs to do, because what I overheard from what you were saying too is that the themes are related to therapy, but are not necessarily related to coaching. So I think it's important for coaches also to know when is the right time to say, I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you here anymore. I don't think we have a lot of skills in doing that. So I think that that's something else for all of us to consider. When is the right time to stop? And maybe that can be something for you to consider later, or to follow up the conversation if you want. I am open to keep working with you, Shakti, on this. If you are willing, we can follow up on this. So we have a couple of hands from Val and Eric, and then we need to wrap up. Yes, Val.
May I share something I heard from a client today? I guess it's my intuition. Would you agree if I share with you, Shakti?
Sure, thank you.
It was a discovery moment, and he came with the thing that collaboration is not about what I'm willing to give to the other person, is what the person needs to get from me. So just share.
Thank you. Thank you for that gift.
Thank you.
Eric?
Damian, I just had a really quick question. One of the early questions that you had for Shakti was, I think it was something along the lines of, have you considered talking to the therapist?
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering sort of what you were thinking behind that, if you could just give a little bit of your thoughts on that.
I think that sometimes it's appropriate when you have a client and there is a lot of mental health, emotional issues going on, and you're working with a therapist. You may ask your client, is it okay if I talk to the therapist to see how I can be better help for you? Is that okay if you give me consent to talk for 15 minutes, 20 minutes with your therapist, so I can get her perspective of how I can be more effective working with you? If there is anything that I need to know about your mental health that will help me to support you in what you need to accomplish.
Thank you.
And the client is the one who has to say, yes, it's okay. And the client needs to talk to a therapist, and then you can have, because I do believe that in some cases like this one, it sounds like you may benefit from having more clarity. And here in the case, because of confidentiality, you didn't disclose many details about a lot of things. So we were talking a little bit in general, but it can be appropriate collaborating with a therapist. So let's do a last round around in less than a minute. Please share, what did you learn from this session today? What are you taking with you?
The bias question was a powerful one, and judging that Alex brought up. It's so easy to fall into both of those and not be fully aware until challenged to think it through. So I'm walking away with those things. I learned a lot from that. Thank you, Damian.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, likewise, the biases and the judgment stuff was really powerful for me. I have one question in my notes here with like 3 question marks after it, which is biases versus intuition, which is something that I'm going to go away sort of pondering about myself. But Val, did you ask the question? Was it your question, the biases?
Yeah.
Gosh,
yeah.
great question. I'm telling you.
Thank
I should go like the top 100 coaching questions ever.
Yeah.
Great.
what I've learned is that how many topics are included within a case. Now I understand why you said that having a case is better than having a topic, because we covered so many different topics with only a single case. So from a reflective space, that's way more, that's way richer.
Thank you, Eli.
Well, I've mentioned before the power of the silence. It touched me, right? And also the power of this safe space that we created, even though it's being recorded. And so we could feel that there was sharing. So we were learning together and we were feeling, right? We were like empathic to Shakti's feelings. And so it was interesting when you started asking what were we feeling? And so I gave myself the permission not to judge, but to be part of the process. That was interesting for me because usually I get to the judgmental. I would be, okay, what is she not doing? What? And I gave myself permission not to go there. And it was great for me.
Shakti, what did you learn today?
Judgment also was a big learning for me today, because receiving questions from experienced coaches like yourselves. I'm a really very young coach, and it was a bit traumatic maybe for me to be in this position. But not judging your questions and your feedback, and being open to it and accepting it from a place of support. That's an amazing thing to be able to do. So thank you for bringing this opportunity.
Is anything that you need to say to feel complete? And as facilitator supervisors, it's part of our responsibility when somebody's open and vulnerable, just to check. Is anything else that you want to say to feel complete with you being vulnerable and open and learning from this experience?
No, except maybe thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being open and vulnerable and insightful and being willing to learn with each other here. So thank you. That was really vulnerable and open and generous from you to share the case. So I'm going to invite everybody to be back, and I want to follow my promise of going for 10 minutes. We may not have a lot of time when we come back, but Jimmy, can you help me to send people in triad for 10 minutes to everybody to share what did you learn in the session today about supervision?
Yes, let me. Okay, yeah, it'll be because of the makeup of the group, it'll be like 3 or 4. Well, it looks like it'll be 3. Okay, good. So we've got triads. Excellent.
Okay, wonderful, great.
And for how long? 10 minutes?
For 10 minutes. And if one of you is in the triad, let the people who were observing be the one who talk. So you can listen to them instead of participating. So the people who have been quiet can speak for a few minutes, and then you are the last ones, okay? So when you go to triad, be sure that you are the last one to share.
All right.
But it's not an interview to you, because then people may want to interview you. So this is not the goal. The goal is for everybody to share what they learned from the experience.
Okay, I'm actually going to move people around. So give me 1 second just to make sure like that 2 people that were in the demo are not in the same room, just to kind of give a fair amount. So let me push to room 2 and move to room 1. And
Maybe you've become so good at this. So proud of you.
I was just going to say his skills with the Zoom are, Jimmy, you need to do a presentation on running Zoom meetings.
Sure, why not?
MasterClass.
And by the way, I feel a lot more energized now after our supervision meeting. So.
It was pretty amazing. Before I send you all out there, I just want to say it was amazing watching all that. That was fantastic. All right, I'm going to send you all that into your group. So enjoy the talk. Okay. And whoosh. Misha, did you want to go in one of the rooms, by the way?
Yes. Why am I not there?
I don't know. Hold on a second. I got to get you in there. Misha Gay, assigned to, I think room 4 was the only one that didn't have enough. Yeah. Okay. Well, you're going to be in there with Shakti, it looks like. So, okay.
So you want to stop recording for a minute?
Yeah, let's hold on one second there. Let me pause that.
Jimmy?
Yep, there we go. Thank you, Maestro.
So we have a few minutes to wrap up. So thanks, everybody.
Yes.
So let's hear from some of the observers, some of the discussion that you have in your triad, comments, observations, questions, anything you want to share. Who would like to start?
This is
Yeah.
Claire.
Good
I'll
to
just
see
say
you.
that, hi, good to see you. Yeah, I was sharing that I have experienced supervision before, and I didn't really enjoy it. And contrasting with this experience, we were trying to analyze what you did to make it feel so easy to share. I felt very, even as an observer, I'm like, well, I want to answer, I want to ask a question. So something in the process that you showed or shared with us was very effective. And I just wanted to commend you for that it made me feel very safe here.
Well, I think that the psychological safety is one of the key elements that is different in group work or teamwork, where you need to pay attention how you set up the foundation for people to be able to be willing to open up and feel that they're not being judged. Because the topic was judgment. But this is our fear. We are all afraid to being judged, and we're being judged no matter what. so it's that happens all the time. But I think that the key element for us is to be aware of that, to be aware how we are judging ourselves, how we're judging others, and stop ourselves. We're there when we can identify we're doing that and learn from that. And I think that our responsibility as coaches and as supervisors is to create that safety, where people may feel, okay, I am going to embrace you, I'm going to support you. We're not going to be judging you negatively. We're going to be all learning together. So that's one of the key elements of supervision. Thank you for bringing that up. Marcia.
Thank you for everything. And I want to pick back in Claire's comment because it was my last comment in the group. So starting with you, Damian, you created like a conductor in an orchestra. You set up everything in the beginning, who wants to talk and everything. There was this arrangement, like if you were putting all the instruments in their places, And then when the interaction started, your interventions were very subtle, right? You were not like ever saying, what do you mean by this or that? You allowed the group to be, right? And the other two amazing comments we had in our interaction. So Susan mentioned about the silence, which is one of the most hard, I'm speaking for myself, moments when we are coaches. So my analogy is that what happened in this group, it was a parallel process of Shakti's session when you, with your way to unveil that, brought all the emotions, everything that happened probably with her. I'm just guessing, Shakti, but at the very end, when Shakti was like emotional and everybody was having this chance to ask questions or be themselves very authentically, very genuinely, it was amazing. It was like something, I'm a different person because of observing, right? Because all of us are different here of witnessing what happened. But that's the two things, your ability to be the conductor. You were not jumping and playing the instruments with everyone, but at the same time, everything, the silence, the interactions, the authenticity of everyone in the group, saying the truth and very generously asking Shakti about her. And so, I'm in awe. That's what I'm feeling here. Okay.
When a couple of things, silence is very powerful. And I think that we all have biases about silence. It's like we're afraid that if we're in silent, people will think that we don't know what to say. And you know, sometimes it may be the case. So it's better to be quiet and don't say anything. You know, like this is what I tell people when we're not sure. But in this case, I was waiting. I was giving her all the space. Yes, you raise your hand, Shakti?
I wanted to say your silence is beyond the verbal silence. Your silence was very complete. And this is something that I think is very difficult about silence, is it's not verbal. It's complete silence. So thank you for that.
It's like embracing with silence. And silence like an embrace for reflection versus as, I don't know what to say. Can everybody hear the difference? Now, I invite everyone, just play with it. Play with silence in your coaching and in everyday conversations with everybody. When we have to present or talk, like now, if you wait for a second, you're heard different. So the way that we use silence in coaching, supervision, and in everyday conversation can make a big difference. For somebody who speaks really fast in 3 languages, I had to work hard. It's not so easy for me. It looked like it's easy, but I do have to work hard because I think fast and speak fast in all languages. So I had to do a lot of work on that all the time, just to bring myself to be present and slow down. So I want you to know that it's not my natural way of being. Okay, it's like I had to work on it, and I had to work on it, and I know I will keep working on it till my last day. So, and the other piece too that you were bringing in terms of the choosing, you know, when in terms of the silence, is like my concern when you work in groups different than individuals. It's like we need to be sure that the person is complete. When somebody is speaking, an individual too, but in group even more. Like you see at the end, I was worried that Shakti will leave here today without feeling complete, that something that she wanted to say was not explored. So we always want to give the chance to people to complete. And it's not very difficult, it's just asking, what do you need to feel complete today? So don't forget that. When somebody is working with you, just be sure that you ask that question at the end. What do you need to feel complete today? Is something that I want to reinforce here that you can take with you. When people are opening up and being emotional. Sometimes I use humor, I didn't do that, but sometimes I say, oh, I have a reputation that I make people cry. So like I was going to say that and I decided not to do it. But sometimes I say that because it's true. Why? But why is that? It's because you are completely there for the other person. That's an experience of presence. When you are completely present for the other, you get vulnerable. You feel, okay, I'm getting in touch with myself. So that emotion, Shakti, that you experienced was in being in contact with yourself, being completely genuine to yourself in what you were exploring and being open to that. That experience is what we want to accomplish in coaching. People being able to connect to themselves, to the place, to ask themselves these questions and feel these emotions that are pure, that are there, but we're all the time trying to hide. But when we have these emotions and we can embrace them, it's really beautiful to watch. Something else. Don't be afraid. Sometimes people are afraid of emotions. And I do believe when somebody is emotional, I think that's great because they're doing the work, things are coming up. We are emotional beings. That means that emotions are coming up, that we are doing the work that we need to do. So this is my own bias, talking about bias. Something else, another tip, is what you bring, I always brought as hypothesis. I never said this is what it is. Did you hear everybody when I was talking? I never said, okay, this is it. I said, is there a possibility that this is this, or what do you think about this? So when you bring hypotheses and possibilities, you are never wrong. Can anybody see that? That's a good tip. If you never want to be wrong, just bring questions and hypotheses and possibilities rather than saying, okay, this is what it is, in language, in the way that we present our ideas. And I didn't know much about the client, so I wrote something that was happening to me. I'm wondering maybe some of this may be helpful for her or not. It's a possibility, but I like to work with my experience, what's happening to me, and wondering how that may be helpful and supportive to the client or the supervisee. So we don't share just to share. We share with the goal to create insight and new awareness and new learning. And as you see here, it's important at the end that everybody share what are their learnings, because the person who is learning is not only the one who brings in the case, but everybody else. And sometimes even somebody from the group may learn even more and get more value than the person bringing the case. That may happen too. Okay, sorry that we're running a little bit late. I apologize for that. Let's hear a couple of more people and then let's wrap up in 2 minutes. Anybody else would like to share another trial, something we have not said yet?
Well, I want to say, this is Jimmy. I just want to say, Shakti, wow, thank you for so much vulnerability there. I know that had to be a challenge for you, and you were amazing there. And the group of coaches was so supportive, so just being there for you. And Damian, of course, you were masterful, like Marcia had said, like a conductor, putting it all together and providing the space and having just the right parts of silence there. It was pretty amazing to watch. And like Marcia had said, she's a different person. I know I am. I'm like, wow, I wasn't even involved in it. Just watching that changes the way I think and feel about my coaching. And now I have to go back and revisit and go, I have to reflect and be there as well. So thank you so much for bringing that. And thank you, Shakti, for putting yourself in a really vulnerable space and trusting all of us in your space.
Well, thanks everybody for participating, for being here. I was telling Jimmy when you were working in your small groups that it's a little bit risky when you do these demos because you don't know what will happen. You have to be, we all have to be vulnerable. The participant, thank you for being willing to raise your hand and trust me. You have never seen me before, and you guys just show up and you say, okay, I will do it. So thank you for being willing to do that.